Hello YouTube vintage stereo and radio collectors. So here is a Canadian made tube radio. It's a Electrohome Serenader. It was made in Kitchener, Ontario by Electrohome. The same Electrohome I was talking about in a previous video where I was saying I'm born in Electrohome town. And this would have been like just a nice portable, you know? And a few things I want to say about it. I love stuff that has a little bit of information on it. It has the Dealcraft tag. Dealcraft is their furniture division. And Dealcraft, Dominion Electrohome Industries Limited Craft is what it means. I just like these old labels. Dealcraft was actually born out of Canada Cabinets, which was a factory that was small by today's standards and put out a lot of work. In fact, here's something I want to put out there, okay? The radio factory where these were built, the Electrohome Radio Factory, on Duke Street in Kitchener, I was in there as a kid when it was operating, and at that time they're making more plastic style clock radios and a few under the Roland name, which is a New York brand. So let's say, but it was still in operation in the mid-70s. And I'm talking about a very cramped old building. You know, it's a 2 or 3 story. I forget how many it was. I think it was 3 story. And wooden floors, wooden beams, you know, and crammed with stuff. Just crammed. And they were built on an assembly line and pushed down to the next person, and some of them were just on a towel or something like that. Others were on a piece of like plywood as a skid with some rollers under it. They're kind of built, let's put it the hard way, point to point. Then I was in that place. Electrohome basically became, it got smaller and smaller and smaller as they sold off divisions. So their motor division and air conditioning division became Danby. Then of course they had like TV sets. TV set production was basically, I'm trying to think, they were importing candle TVs and rebadging them. Then they shut that down. That was the Wellington Street factory. It was a little more modern, being built in the 50s rather than the 30s, and still crammed with stuff. I remember seeing television picture tubes, and they're basically on a conveyor in a jig, and somebody would take them off, walk it over, and there'd be another guy helping him guide it into the cabinet. Why do I know so much about this? Well, my grandfather worked for Canada Cabinets, which later became Dealcraft. And he was basically building furniture, radio, and TV cabinets, became a foreman, and then he actually went to the design department, and he was their prototype man. And he would be given a design, and they'd say, we need some mock-ups for a trade show. And it'd be like the new 5 TV models that were coming out. And he would build the cabinets, fit chassis into them, and get a couple, you know, how many working prototypes were needed. Sometimes he said they didn't even bother putting the chassis in, just the picture tube, and they would stick a few knobs on the front. And he said, depending on the reaction at the trade shows, they would decide which models to build. Then I was in there, I won't plug this in and try this one out, but I was in there, trying to think. I was with the phone company. This might be risky. I haven't even tried this one. Apparently it does not work. So I would have been there 87, 88 when there's a company that took over the projection TV division, and I don't exactly remember the name of it. It was something like, it wasn't Dalsa, but it was something like that. Are we getting anything here? And they built projection TVs for sporting events and things like that. Oh, there is something. Harley Turns. Well, no audio coming through, but there's a little bit of hum, so I guess that is audio. So we got something happening there. I remember going there and putting in a more modern phone system, a Nortel Meridian. That dates me. Everything I did dates me, right? I remember going through there, and the company that had bought and taken over it was building these projection TVs. They didn't even need all the floor space. Their production was a lot smaller. Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and the way things were built years ago in factories, they took advantage of space, they took advantage of people, literally, right? Now there's actually, in that Wellington Street plant, there's a place that does some kind of, what it is, cyber security. And I was in there recently for a tour, and I couldn't believe how spread out everything is. People's desks, the areas where they're testing stuff, and the speed at which they assembled radios, TVs was brisk, okay? The speed at which they're doing what they're doing now looks comically lackadaisical. Must be a couple screws on the bottom. I'm just curious what this has for a chassis. And another thing, it says something, Northwest Electric Sales and Service, 1532 11th Avenue, Regina, Saskatchewan. But there's a tag over here, Chris's Radio and Television on 12th Avenue, Regina. So, it's a Canadian one, and made it to Regina. These are sold all over Canada. You can get these knobs off. Oh no. Those are really on there. They always are really on there. Let's try some gentle persuasion. And I'm not trying to make fun of the workers, but it just seems to be, we have bigger homes now, we have bigger SUVs, we have bigger plants where things are built. Oh man, it's almost like it's being held on by shellac or something, No, there's no, there aren't any kind of set screws or anything on these. I'm just looking for the right screwdriver to pry with. Let's try it this way. But there used to be actually an Electrohome museum in there, quite a few years ago. And that museum has now been moved to another museum, the Waterloo Region Museum. Oh boy, got it. It finally said, I'm coming off. Yeah, it's almost like there's a lacquer sprayed on here. Wow, that's like... It was kind of neat having something like that in your town. But there's people have car plants in their town, and I think so much of that stuff is coming to an end. Hopefully that trend turns around. So there's a screw here. Maybe we take that one out, we can do a slide. This is a Series 1U51S1, whatever that means, model 402. It's a 5-tube series with octal tubes. Oh, I see the chassis sliding back. You never know what comes out of some of these. I've had moths, bumblebees, mice. I think the last Addison radio I did had mice in it. Oh, I like this style where the whole chassis and speaker comes out. There's the, put the cabinet there so I can show you the chassis. It is dusty. There it is. Yeah, so that's an actual glass. It's a 5 1/4 speaker. Is it permanent magnet or light? I think it's actually, yeah, it is permanent magnet, okay. Westinghouse tube. It has the bigger style of IF cans. So it's a variable capacitor with a fixed inductor. Back is the antenna. Yeah, looks like all Westinghouse tubes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over and let's see how the chassis is. Look at this. Well, there's probably why it doesn't sound so great. Wax caps, all original wax caps. I think this one's actually been replaced. This is a pretty old Aerobox. Made in Canada. So a 50, a 30, and a 20 microfarad. The original resistors. Nice big control. It would have been like a lower cost radio, but it's still made well. This Serenader line, I had one that was like a transformer powered one, and it was a Grimes Finola by Grimes radio, which was a company that Electrohome absorbed, and it had an actual safety cage on the bottom and the top. It was quite a radio. There's wood on very low capacity. You catch that? Wow. Tested by FJB. This was tested again by NS. Yeah, let you know who they were. Long gone, probably. Everything is really tight. So I'm going to take this out and blow it out outside. It has asbestos in it. What am I supposed to do with that? Is it glued down or stapled? Stapled down. It really isn't even necessary for the operation of the radio. I think what I do with most of them, so I'm going to blow this all out outside. I'll be upwind from it. Then I put an epoxy coating on this. A sealer, so that the fibers can't fly around. The case does have some scratches and marks. Like that side's very nice. It's got a big zerp on it there. Be nice to save the Serenader script. The only thing about these radios is, and truthfully, they are so hard to sell these days. Look at that. This has been sprayed. The knob's on it. They are so hard to sell. Tube radios. Okay, I'll give you an example. I was thinking about some that I had 15, 20 years ago. I would say early to late 2000s was the price peak. And then something happened. A generational change, shifted interest to stereo equipment. Something happened. I used to be able to buy these for about 20, 40 bucks. Clean it up, maybe refinish the cabinet, put new caps in it, sell for maybe 150 to a collector. Now, like, well, this one was 20. I gave my cousin 20 for this one, but it was, if lucky, okay, put it this way, I could do the same work to it and sell it for 40. They're just not the interest in them. And even the higher dollar ones, the Zenith Transoceanics, oh my gosh, the tube ones, you know, with the black leatherette and the big handle. They're supposed to be portable, but they weigh 18 pounds and they're size of a 20-inch tube TV. Those things, and they worked really well. I used to find them 40, 50 bucks, sell them for 300 restored. Now it's, I turned one down at a flea market last year that had been restored for 60. Because I was texted a few people I knew that are collectors, and everybody was saying, no, not interested, not collecting those anymore. So anyway, that's kind of the way it goes. But I'm going to get this one working and looking the best I can without refinishing the cabinet. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening.